There's been much made about Florida State's need to use transfer portal offensive linemen to make out the starting lineup. Yours truly included. We've discussed it quite a bit. But there is a new trend that's about to start this year with the young offensive linemen.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console is needed. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. We're going to be talking about the House settlement case and how it impacts Florida State. You've got Donald Trump and the college football czar himself, Nick Saban, getting together to try to put together a commission with what's going on with NIL. But do not believe the rumors or anybody in any way, shape, or form that say there's going to be a cap on players and what they can make. I'm going to put a complete squash on that real quick in today's episode later on. But first, we're going to talk about Florida State's positive news. I don't say this very often. Positive news, not only with recruiting, but offensive line recruiting. They're getting in on the right guys. They're signing more of them. And now they have a chance to get away from the long-term, not just problematic, but absolutely ridiculous nature of having to bring in portal guys every year along the offensive line. This is the first year where it begins. And if things go well, this is up to Florida State, not me, but this is up to Florida State. If they develop right and these players take the right path, 2026 is going to be a completely redone look at Florida State football, and it begins with the offensive line. So let's start with that. I've got 7 guys that I've recruited plus 2 recent transfers that I'm going to discuss. They're the base of what you have. The great news is 7 of the 9 are homegrown, and the other 2 are all but homegrown. So this is a great scenario, meaning you got them from the high school ranks. That's awesome. Secondarily, they're young enough, you can teach them your system with your guy, Herb Hand, the offensive line coach at Florida State. He's had a lot of success in his career, but it takes a lot of players along the offensive line all bought into the scheme. So let me make this statement first that goes beyond Florida State. This is for any FBS program, even a lower level P4 school. If you don't have guys that want to be as one unit, that want to play at a high level together, it doesn't matter what Herb Hand or any other coach does. The individualistic mentality that, in my opinion, has cost Florida State quite a bit, especially last year. Look at some of the guys that either transferred, didn't turn pro because they didn't put in the effort they needed to. We know who they are. Some are back at Florida State, some aren't. The individualistic overview, if you will, of what happened last year cannot permeate into the offensive line room or any other for Florida State to take the proper steps to getting back to being a big-time program. No individuals, team. If you want to make it to the NFL, play as a team, especially O-line. If nothing else, we learned from the NFL draft this year, by the way, as a little extra. Guys that are high maintenance, you know who I'm talking about, will not be drafted high. Low maintenance. Same thing at the college level. Coaches won't put up with it, you'll be gone. Florida State now has the young talent, and they're building more because they're doing a pretty good job recruiting offensive linemen in this class. If they continue on this path, there should be, by the end of this year, at minimum, 2 guys in the 2 deep that are freshmen or sophomores, if not 3, because the most talented guys happen to be the players they recruited out of the high school ranks, by and large. Now, again, will they take a step forward? That has to be done with the coaches, the training staff, all the people, the nutritionists, everything has to work together. But there is a chance. Literally, next year, you could have 2 or 3 of the guys that I'm getting ready to mention in the starting lineup for the Florida State Seminoles. 25 is the bridge year. Look, it's going to be transfer portal city. Pretty much everybody that's going to start is a transfer at Florida State. It is what it is. But there could be a complete flip to what it should be at Florida State beginning next year. And that's really what this entire first part of the podcast is about. So let me just go through the list. I'm going to give my projection, my thoughts, some of these kids I saw in high school, and I'll also use a few comments if I've seen them, whether they played at Florida State or not, some overview. Let's start with a guy that I thought was going to be really good at Florida State by this point, but he hasn't broken into the lineup yet, Lucas Simmons. He's at least 6'7". I mean, I've stood next to him. That is a big drink of water right there. Lucas is a guy that he's got to figure it out this year. He's a redshirt sophomore. It's time. Now, Florida State has, again, they got all these transfers. He's not going to start this year, at least beginning of the year. But that doesn't mean he can't start at the end of the year. And that doesn't also mean that every day isn't the most important one. Every single day. Norvell talks about this. Every coach talks about this. Nick Saban talks about this. Marcus Freeman talks about this. You name a coach, this is their thing. Do what you can today because that's the day you can impact. Lucas Simmons should be the next left tackle up at Florida State in 2026. Period. Size, length, training. He's got Herb Hand coaching. The guy's put some guys in the NFL. He's been around forever. He should be next up. Barring something I don't know about in terms of an injury with Lucas, it's time for him to close that gap, to be the next guy, and for them to know by no later than early October, hey, we don't have to go get a left tackle in the portal. We got one standing over here on the sideline. When was the last time you said that as a Florida State fan? Comment down below. When was the last time that you saw Florida State have that guy coming up? Not only was he a highly rated recruit, which Lucas Simmons absolutely was, offers all around the country, Southern Cal, Florida State, other Florida schools, SEC, Big Ten. He had everything. But when was the last time that guy came in and then there wasn't some kind of disappointment? Hopefully, Lucas is the trend in the right direction. Because if you have a left tackle, look at the NFL draft. 8 of the first 32 picks were offensive linemen. 25%. Coincidence? Do you think NFL people are stupid? Of course not. They know that games are won in the trenches. And once again, the great news here is you've got a young player who's had a chance to develop some. He's going to get his shot after this season. Right now, he's projected as the backup left tackle by my assertion and some others too. But Gunnar Hansen will probably be the guy this year. But if he can get in any reps for any situation, Lucas Simmons has to be ready. He's number one on the board for me on this entire list because left tackle is so hard. If he's that guy for Florida State, it's going to go very well. Now, the other one I want to talk about, and I'm not sure which spot he will play. Maybe it's right tackle. Maybe it's a guard spot. I think he's a little bit of a player that could move around. And that's something that Herb Ham likes to do. He likes to cross-train. But maybe Jonathan Daniels will be that guy. I don't know. I know he prefers to play tackle, but we'll see what happens. He redshirted last year. He's a Pensacola kid, so he's another guy right down the corridor on I-10, a couple hours away. You want these kind of kids to make a difference for you anyway, because it's just great for the program. Local kids doing well would be awesome, but maybe he moves inside for a year that kicks back out to tackle. I have no idea. I just know that I've seen him play live. That's all about the Under Armour All-American game. Jonathan Daniels was really good. For those of you that came into this podcast watching on YouTube, the thumbnail, the photo is of Jonathan. He's a big drink of water too, and he's a guy that's really light on his feet. I think he could play guard or tackle. Doesn't really matter. And if you can get him ready at tackle too, then you'd have 2 guys ready to start at tackle with multiple years of eligibility. Praise the Lord, hallelujah. They would be doing something they haven't done in years. That would be a game changer for Florida State football. That has to happen. To that point, just to stay on the tackle point here, and I may not pronounce his last name correctly, my apology, Sean Perret or Perret. He's a kid out of Riverwood High School in Atlanta. He's a freshman this year. He's a long, tall kid. He's another, I don't want to say he couldn't play guard, but he's probably just a tackle. 6'6" or bigger. I would think he's a lot like Lucas Simmons. He's born to play tackle. You got him. And you also got Mario Nash Jr., who's, from a technical standpoint, a guy that could be a guard or tackle. He's kind of like Jonathan Daniels, but he's a little more advanced, in my opinion, than most guys coming out of high school in terms of his technique. He was coached well in Mississippi. Kemper County does it right. That's a kid that could compete for playing time next year. So your tackle spot has a chance to be great with a couple of those guys possibly being able to play guard as well. It just doesn't get any better than that. Florida State would be in a great spot. Now, I'm not saying that's the end-all be-all, and I have more guys to talk about here, plus a couple of the transfers, but when was the last time you felt this good about tackle beyond the season you were in? It's been better part of a decade Florida State's been in this spot. And you have a really good offensive line coach to get it done. So that's something to be happy about. And we're going to continue on with the O-line discussion and good news next here on Locked On Seminoles. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices, no console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, as easily as you stream your favorite shows. Max, Paramount Plus, Disney, anything you can imagine, you can get on a Fire Stick. I use mine all the time, and I love to use it for just about anything, especially YouTube. Head over to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, second generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube, third generation. Florida State even has one more offensive lineman that's a possible tackle. I don't know for sure if he'll play it, but I think he will, and that's Chasten Brown. It is from an area Florida State has to hit. Just continuing on this conversation, and they did. Warner Robins, north side. Maybe Perrette ends up at guard, and it's the other way around. I don't know. But they've got so many tackles. Brown's a kid that's another 6'5" kid at least. He's listed at like 6'7", so he's tall. We'll see. But when was the last time Florida State had this? I'm so giddy about it because tackle was such a hindrance since I started covering Florida State. It drove me nuts. And I'm guessing it has probably done the same for you guys too. Guys are either hurt, weren't that good, or both. That's turning right now for Florida State, and thank goodness. Now let's talk a little bit more about the interior offensive line. Not as many numbers, but again, one or two of these tackles will end up inside. It's just inevitable. It's math. Everybody has to have a position. There are two guards, two tackles in the center, so it'll work itself out. First off, redshirt sophomore, Andre Otto. He's a kid that was really raw and wasn't that great last year, but he was thrown to the wolves. I mean, he was playing because who else were they going to play? Rizzi's a guy that can play some this year, but I don't think he's going to be the long-term answer. It's going to be Otto, and then it's probably, I don't know for sure, but I think Chavez Thompson, Sandman as we like to call him, from Cocoa could end up being the starting center as a redshirt freshman, and at the worst, a redshirt sophomore. Sometimes you don't want a young guy being your center making calls. I don't know how Herb will handle that, but it's a possibility. And here's the other wild card part. Not one or the other, but both of the following players could potentially play tackle or guard. Again, hallelujah, praise the Lord. Florida State bringing in transfers that are young, have talent, and versatility. Talked about him before. Josh Raymond comes in from Vandy. He redshirted last year. He's a kid from the Orlando area. And then on top of it, you also get Jalen Matthews, a kid out of New Jersey that was highly, highly recruited. Miami really wanted him. Goes to Rutgers, spends one semester and transfers. So they both have freshman eligibility. Florida State's finally sitting pretty at offensive line. As I sit here, I feel weird saying that. Again, the only keys are the obvious. You've got a really good offensive line coach. Do the players assimilate to the system and make it happen? I don't know the full answer to that. And of course, there's injuries and other things that play in. But as long as there's no me first attitude, there's so much talent there. These are all guys that have the length and the size and everything that fits for their individual positions. Like Thompson's not the biggest guy. He's 6'1", but he's going to play center, so it doesn't matter. Everybody else is like 6'4", 6'5", and above. These are the right measurements for the NFL draft, let alone college. Florida State's bringing in the right kind of guys. Now, which ones of them make it happen? Which ones of them really want it? Do all the little things. Don't go out chasing girls. Get the proper sleep. They get the right nutrition. They lift when they're supposed to. They train like an NFL player while they're in college. That's the short answer here. You know what? I'm just going to adapt that into all of my stuff. Are you training like an NFL player while you're at Florida State? Checkbox. Yes or no. Florida State hasn't had enough of it. Some guys did, but I don't know how many of them had this much talent either. Florida State's length, especially at tackle again. Simmons is 6'7". You got Brown's like 6'6", 6'7". Perez, same kind of deal. Mario Nash is one of the shorter ones, like 6'4.5". And he's got tremendous technique. When was the last time Florida State was in this spot with young linemen? 2015, maybe? It's been a decade. By the time we got to 2017, the depth chart was getting a little iffy with the younger players on the O-line. And by 2019, it was a disaster. It was a disaster. And it just hasn't been fixed because transfer. At some point, you got to kind of take a hit and you got to play the young guys. There's no shortcut. That might be next year. You might have a few growing pains in 2026. But for the long term of the program, you would have 4 or 5 guys coming back in 2027. Like, you would shift your program into a hyperdrive doing it that way. That changes your football program immensely. Just saying, Florida State's headed in the right direction. And one more point about the offensive line. I was reading along and just kind of going through some of the websites covering Florida State. And this is a kid that I've had a chance to meet. Wilson Zaire, 6'5", 6'6", 280, 285. Really good looking athlete. I met him on campus at Auburn. Great kid. His brother played at Auburn. He is a big time recruit, and they got him coming in for a visit. Georgia wants him. Alabama wants him. I can stop there, but you get the point. His brother went to Auburn. Those 3, Florida State and a few others, are involved for OBs. Elite prospect. Florida State's not resting on its laurels. Yeah, they got some really good players that are underclassmen on the offensive line. That's great news. But do you think Kirby Smart or Marcus Freeman or Ryan Day or Dan Lanning or any other coach would give 2 hoots about who's on his depth chart? No. He goes out and finds the next stud. It's who ends up on top through the battles in practice. And if guys transfer, guys transfer. If somebody younger wins the battle, who cares? You earned it. We get you here. You decide who plays. That's really what this is. Florida State's pushing for some top guys, and I'll dig into this more coming up in the next few weeks. But Florida State's really digging into the offensive line side of things. Now, they're missing on some guys too, because you're not going to get everybody. But they're at least in on a ton of good offensive linemen. We'll see where the chips fall come late June, early July. We're just getting started with the recruiting stuff. But this is a good trend. The Zaire kid, film's great. He looks great. Great kid. He'd fit in anywhere. And he's got pedigree. His older brother was a big-time player too. So this is a good trend for Florida State football. Now, just want to hit on a couple other quick notes on recruiting. Then I'm going to go into the house settlement stuff. First off, still hearing that Landon Duckworth probably ain't going to end up at Florida State. That's what I've heard. Watch out for South Carolina. They were the original team that he was committed to. Ole Miss has trended. We'll see. Ole Miss just got a big-time commitment from a receiver in Alabama, ironically. And we'll see if that ends up having any impact on Duckworth. But Ole Miss has done a nice job with their class. Florida State needs some kind of movement, though, at quarterback. And they still have Jaden O'Neal coming in. The commitment from Oklahoma, need to see that one come to fruition. But that looks like the most likely guy for the Noles to sign in this class. Also, when you look at this class, as far as the recruiting visits, I urge you, and again, I'm going to go through this in depth over the next 2 weeks constantly. Go look at Florida State's official visit list. There's a lot of different sites you can look them up, Rivals, 24/7, etc., and just kind of get an overview. Graze over it. 2 things that I want you to notice. A lot of linemen and a lot of kids from the right places, meaning Georgia and Florida in particular. Not that there's anything wrong bringing in kids from Mississippi, Texas, etc., but overall, Florida State is recruiting where they should be recruiting. It's the blueprint that Bobby Bowden used. By the way, he was pretty good at this. Top 4 finishes, 14 years in a row, if I remember right? It was insane. Florida, Georgia, and then you cherry pick. 1 kid from D.C., 1 kid from L.A., maybe a Midwest kid or a PA kid. We're done. There's no reason to make it more complex. You're in the right location in Tallahassee. So within a 6-hour radius or so, pretty much everything you need is there. And then, you just add a few more players from around the country and you can have a top 5 class. That's where Florida State needs to get back to be. When we come back, I'm going to give you why this house settlement case will not be that big a deal. And there's not going to be any cap. This is ridiculous. I've heard some people say it. I want to squash that right now. That is next here on Locked On Seminoles. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and taking control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. It's easy to collaborate with your partner as well. Instead of keeping all your capital in different places, you can track your personal accounts, set goals, and more under Monarch Money without all the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Don't believe all the hype about the house settlement being the end-all be-all for players getting the raw end of the deal. That's garbage. And here's why. Do you really think at any point in college football history the top players didn't get money under the table? Yeah, I can tell you firsthand, that's garbage. Florida State or anywhere else, look, it's just the way it is. Somebody's getting paid somewhere. I don't want to hear, our school doesn't cheat. That's garbage. Secondarily, with NIL, okay, you spend the money you get from the house settlement, it's going to be somewhere around $20 million. The football team is going to get $15 million, $17 million, something like that of it at these major programs like Florida State. If you run out, you know what you do? It's the same thing they've been doing. You have groups outside of the program that have their own collectives, and you have individuals that have their own businesses. Who is going to stop somebody, because they're already doing it, from going down the road to an insurance company, from a financial investing firm, from, a car dealership, a local restaurant, and doing an advertisement for them? Some kind of charity work with the name of that individual business on their chest when they go to a hospital. Do anything. There's a million ways these young people can be compensated. Soccer, baseball, basketball, football. Nobody's going to get left out of the cold. So let me give you the backdrop in case you're unaware of what I'm talking about. And yes, this directly impacts Florida State. Coach Saban is going to meet with Trump, and they're going to do something where he's going to kind of override what's going on with NIL. In other words, not really override, overwatch, if you will. That's probably a better way to look at it. Try to figure out the best way to streamline this. But there is just no way you're going to have a true cap. You can't say, without getting sued to the absolute millionth degree, that you can't have outside collectives. There's no chance. We are in a capitalistic society. Florida State players will be compensated. So will Duke. So will Massachusetts. So will UC Irvine. It does not matter the school. Now, I've seen idiots talk about this, trying to get clicks on social media, message boards, etc. I turned it off, and I highly recommend that you do the same. I say again, with the groups on the exterior, again, name a dealership that doesn't have somebody in a local area of a major school. Somebody in Birmingham is probably going to support Auburn or Alabama. Somebody in Atlanta probably going to support Georgia Tech or Georgia. Anything like that for those local schools. There's a chance that players are going to get money outside of the school itself. So this cap stuff is garbage. And the number is going to go up every year with the house settlement anyway. So why is everybody complaining that is? For those of you that are quiet, good for you. For those of you who aren't worrying, good for you as well. I like it. I just don't know why it got started in the first place. Seems a little odd to me. To that end, I want to make a personal note here. I am not sure how the collectives are working with Florida State's administration right now. I don't ask about that stuff. It's none of my business. But if you are thinking about, in any way, shape, or form, donating to Florida State, two things. Number one, good for you. And secondarily, there is no shortcut. You've got to do a lot of research. Yes, that means time. Sorry. It's like anything else with money. Shortcuts really don't matter that much unless you want to be somebody on the wrong side of the wall. And I don't advise that. So do your research. Find out how you can help. Doesn't matter if it's football or something else. There's a way to do it beyond this house settlement. Now, it may not be the way that the athletic department at any given school wants to do it, and every school is going to look at this, the outside stuff, differently now, probably. I'm going to tell you this right now. The schools that promote it will be the ones that win. The schools that are scared will be the ones that lose. It's going to be that simple because the ones with more pockets will have more players, Florida State included. That's never changing. That's no different than when all the cheating was going on, and it still does. And it's no different in regards to, hey, this school over here is spending more money. I'll look at them. Look at Texas Tech. They have never been a prominent football program, but they're building a roster where they might win the Big 12 this year, and they'll certainly be in contention because of their NIL. Outside collectives, man. That is bottom line. Florida State doesn't have the oil money that Texas Tech does. I get it. But that still means there's a chance for you to do it through private donation. You don't have to be in oil money to have money. $50 is not a bad thing either. You don't have to be the $5 million guy. Talk to your friends, find a way. And again, it doesn't have to be football. Support something with Florida State athletics. These young men and women give their time, Lord only knows how much, to support their university, your alma mater, the program you like. They deserve some opportunity to make some money. We'll see how it goes. But again, if Florida State does this right and they allow, without being hindering, this is key. There's going to be some schools that do this. I don't know who it's going to be. Screw it up. If they stay out of the way of the program's other opportunities, meaning outside NIL collectives, they're going to win. They're going to get more players. You can be a part of that. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. I truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. Please hit that like button, that subscription. Please comment anymore. For some reason, the algorithms, I get more people coming to my channel just by you commenting on YouTube. Please do so, even if it's something simple like asking if we could talk about another subject matter coming up, something about a player, something about the house settlement you want to learn about. Whatever it is, I'm more than happy to answer and do a show on it. And also, please give us a 5-star review if you're on Apple or anywhere else. Thank you once again. We will see you soon on Locked On Seminoles.